All right. Welcome back to the BamaSound podcast. Today I am joined by Rick, and I think we're going to go over some crazy stories.
You remember when I took you guys into the eviction unit?
Uh-huh.
And I said, I don't know what this substance is that is on the floor in the
brown
bathroom.
stuff.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I later found out what it was.
Okay. What was it?
Somebody had super glued or had gorilla glued a bath mat to my tile floor. I mean, it's a great
That's what
idea.
That was?
Yeah, so you won't slip when you come out of the tub.
How'd you get it off the floor, off the tile?
A week of scrubbing with a razor blade, and it was just really a lot of fun to do that. So,
yeah, I bet.
So anyway, we're going to come back to that unit, though, when we do a follow-up to that eviction unit. We're going to talk about that, but it kind of prompted me, and you made a comment like, is this one of the worst that you've seen? Because the entire apartment was just completely filthy. It was a disaster. Awful. There was furniture left in there. It was just awful. And anyway, it prompted me to after 4 decades of being in the apartment management and ownership business, what were some of the worst, most egregious tenant tricks did I have? And that one would probably make the top 10. I'm going to put it at 10.
Okay.
So, but
you can bring it down to 10, you think? There's not too many?
Well, I spent a little bit of time thinking about the ones that, I still talk about. That some of them are 3 decades, 4 decades ago. So those are obviously going to be told today. But I'm really thinking the ones that I had the most fun with, that in some cases were ingenious. I mean, I'm saying these are the dumbest tenant tricks. Well, from my perspective, maybe they were, but one in particular we're going to talk about. We'll talk about it now. I'll make it number 9, was the bank vault tenant.
Bank vault tenant?
Yeah, he's also one of the smartest tenants that I've had. I don't know what he was deriving his income from, but when he moved out, we found that there was a hole cut in the wall that was about, I don't know, maybe 4 by 6.
Uh-huh.
And he had just pushed the sheetrock back into the place. And then when we looked down, directly below it, down towards the floor, there was another cut in the sheetrock that was the same basic dimensions.
I see.
And so I couldn't figure out what the person was doing. I mean, the apartment otherwise was in not terrible shape. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't in terrible shape. So I'm like, I don't do sheetrock. So I had my painter over there, and he was figuring out how to do the sheetrock, and he sticks his hand up in the hole on the bottom, and he's like, I'm feeling something in here. And he pulled out 4 $100 bills. So I split it with him. But anyway, I'm like, what the hell? And I got to thinking about it, and my theory is this guy was either, it didn't have to be something illicit. It could have been that he just didn't have a bank and didn't trust the bank. But apparently he decided for safekeeping, while he was in the apartment, he would remove a picture and drop the cash down into the wall, between the studs, and then put the picture back, put the plug of sheetrock back in there, and then right before he would move out, he would make a similar indentation down low because gravity would drop the cash, in this case the $100 bills, and he just reach in there and grab it all up, and
he must have left
put it back, and he apparently some got hung up in the wall or something.
That's like out of a movie.
So
that's crazy.
So I guess that would make number 9. I say it's one of the dumbest tenant tricks, but in some regards, it was one of the smartest things that
is that the most cash you've come across randomly?
That's real legit U.S. printed cash. Yeah, we've got a lot of counterfeit money.
Really? You found a lot of counterfeit money?
Oh yeah, too? Yeah. I mean, I pick up $100 bills on the highway all the time. So people just riding down the road throwing them out. I mean, what the hell?
If that's number 9, what's number 8?
Well, these are going to come in just as I remember them, and so there's no. When we get the last one is definitely the worst, so I'm going to talk about that.
Gotcha.
So we had another tenant that was a great tenant. As a matter of fact, he lived in the building across the courtyard from you, also upstairs.
Okay.
And do you guys know what a landline is?
Like a landline telephone? Like a house phone?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So that was a thing. So I think I had a bag phone, I think, at this point in time. This was probably in the late 80s. But one of my tenants had been an All-American defensive back at the University of Alabama, football, and had graduated. He'd gone into the NFL for a season or two, and he then gone back to school and got his law degree after the football career was over. And he was a tenant of mine across the courtyard from you guys in an upstairs apartment. And this probably would have been around 1990 or so, somewhere in that time frame. So because I had a bag phone, it wasn't the same situation where you charge it into a wall. Mm-hmm. I don't even think you could recharge it from plugging into the wall. I think you had batteries, like a big heavy brick battery that you would carry around at the time. So this was not a call that came in on my cell phone. I'm in my bedroom and the phone beside our bed starts like ringing and I'm like delirious. It's 2 or 3 in the morning. I don't even know what's going on. Elizabeth's like, the phone's ringing. I'm like, I thought the alarm was going off. And so I didn't get to the phone in time and it kicks to the answering machine, which is another device you guys probably have no idea what that is.
I know what an answering machine is. I'm not a toddler.
You had like a fit. Well, some of these viewers probably don't. So if you're in your 20s, maybe, but if you're in your teens, you have no idea.
Probably, yeah.
So you'd have like a machine that would sit on your bedside table or in your kitchen, and when you wouldn't pick up when somebody called you, after a certain number of designated rings, it would go into your answering machine, and then when you come home from work or fun or whatever, you push the buttons and you'd replay.
Right.
And it was always so demoralizing to most people when you'd come home and there'd be no messages. For me, I wanted no messages because my messages were not good, and this one was not either. He's like, hey, Rick, I got a problem, like a real problem. I got water like gushing out of the wall in my bathroom, and he was in an upstairs apartment with hardwood floors, and so I try to call him back and he's not answering the number that he gave me. I'm like, what the hell? So I get out, and at this point in time I was living 2 or 3 miles from the property, so not real far away, but I had to get in my car and drive. So I'm driving over there, and I keep a water key handy, so the first thing I did is went straight to the street and shut the water off of his apartment, and then went up to investigate what was going on. And sure enough, when I got up there, he and his girlfriend, one of his girlfriends, they were like bailing. They had like little solo cups, and they're like bailing water out of the bathroom tile floor and throwing it into the tub so it would go into the tub drain, while this water was like still coming out of the pipe, the water supply line going to the lavatory.
Wow.
And so he was doing his best to keep it from overflowing the threshold between the bathroom, which again was ceramic tile, which offered some type of water resistance to, some type of penetration barrier for the water not to get into the ceiling, which is these were plaster ceilings then and now. And so they were working so hard and they were so embarrassed. And so anyway, there was a wall hung lavatory that was down on the floor, and the water had just, when the sink had ripped off the wall, the water was just gushing off. He couldn't figure out how to shut it off. And
so it just totally ripped out of the wall and then broke the pipe, and it was
and
spewing.
It just broke the pipe, and I think it was a copper pipe or something or other. So
wow.
Anyhow,
and you were the only one to call. It's just you. That was it.
I mean, I was the owner. I had a property manager, but we would rotate weekends. And, for those kind of calls, I typically wanted to get those calls, believe it or not, because I could know how to react a little faster and better. And as it turned out, we were able to mitigate the problem before it got into the ceiling, which would have created a really heavy ceiling and potential collapse of the plaster ceiling onto the tenant below.
Yeah. So, how many incidents like that where you had to get up in the middle of the night and respond to an emergency did you
it's
have?
once or twice a year.
Okay.
It's not.
I got you. It's not super common.
No,
then.
it's and this one had a happy ending. So anyway, it was a good situation. The guy became a lawyer. I think he was in law school at this time or whatever. And I called him off to the side and I said, "Dude, what the hell happened?" And he goes, "Well, first of all, I'm going to pay for this." And so I'm like, okay, cool. But tell me what happened. And he said, "Well, I kind of got a new girlfriend, and she's real adventurous and athletic, and we had taken a shower together, and she apparently wasn't done with me. And so the next thing we know, we're on the sink, and it's like,
and it's a wall-mounted
it didn't
sink.
hold the weight. So I'm like, dude, I appreciate your honesty. So, it was a $400 or $500 plumbing bill, and he paid it, man. It was great. And
wow.
He kind of said, "Hey, don't tell my other girlfriend what happened." So anyhow, and I saw him at our local bar like maybe a year or two ago. He was visiting some friends in Montgomery. And he came. So first, I'd gone to the bathroom. Actually, I came back and my wife was like, "Hey, somebody just bought our table a round of drinks." And I'm like, "Really?" And so I realized it was my buddy, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Dude, I'll never forget that night." I said, "I won't either." She said, "Well, I appreciate you kind of keeping it on the QT, and so I'm buying a round of drinks for everybody." So that would make the top 10 for sure.
So that's like a story that maybe you weren't laughing at in the middle of it, but now that you're remembering,
my wife was more pissed because it took like 2 or 3 times for him to call me for me to. I was thinking I was dreaming that my alarm was going off, and the phone was right next to my wife's, where she sleeps. So she wasn't too happy about it. And honestly, she was, when we started investing in real estate, she's like, "I don't want you to be like a slave to these apartments, and these tenants are going to be calling in the middle of the night." I'm like, "No, they're not. I mean, they're not going to be calling." Yes, that's a part of this deal. And if your wife or your husband doesn't want you to do that, then probably need to think about getting into something other kind of side hustle, which for me at this time, it was a side hustle. So.
Gotcha. Are other tenants in the building if you have to shut off the water for some emergency?
It depends on the nature of the plumbing supply. And in this case, each of the apartments are they have individual water meters. And so I could shut off just the water for his apartment. And it meant that he had to do without water for half a day because it probably took a day or two for us to get a plumber back over there. But I could figure out how to shut it off at the wall for the sink itself. He was freaking out. And it was the shut off valve for the water to go to the sink was stiff. It was like you really had to and he was afraid that he was going to do something even worse to it.
Gotcha.
So anyhow, you don't think real straight when you're in the middle of the night and there's some kind of an emergency going on like that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a crazy story.
Same building. Another story.
Okay,
this one
is number 6.
This is probably number 7 or 8, I guess. So anyway, who's counting? I mean, same building.
Okay, gotcha.
But further down from the main street.
Okay.
And I had a tenant that had a ball python pet snake in a terrarium, and I didn't know it. He didn't tell anybody. And
would you have let him?
I don't know. I mean, it's never come up since then, and I didn't know about it at the time. And we are like pet friendly, and we have a weight limitation and an aggressive breed restriction for pit bulls just because of the rap that they have. And my insurance company basically won't issue my liability coverage if I knowingly have pit bulls and a couple of other.
I didn't know
so I get around that by having a weight limit. We anything over 35 pounds.
Or what if you just say, this is an American Bulldog, not a pit bull, this is fine?
Well, that's another way to get around it with the weight. So if you have a single access, in other words, a private access, some of my apartments, you go to your door and that door is just for you and to get in and out of your apartment. In others, in the case of the building that you're in, you share a vestibule with 3 other apartments. Right. And so I didn't want to have a big dog, regardless of breed, coming down a narrow stairwell and being surprised by another tenant going to his or her apartment. And so we limited the size to 35 pounds for shared vestibules or doors, that shared access. And it goes to 50 pounds if you have private access. So, but I'd never really thought about, I've had cats and, I guess I don't think I've ever had a rooster, thank God. But anyhow, so in this case, I didn't know anything about it till I started getting calls at work the next morning from a bunch of panicked neighbors.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's going on? And so this one girl in particular, she would freak out every time she'd see a chameleon lizard in her apartment, which would happen from time to time. And she'd swear they'd come in and they were dead because they were, they're chameleons. So when they're out in the yard, they're green. When they're in the grass, they come into the apartment on the hardwood floors, they turn brown to blend in. She's like, it's dead. And, then I would pick it up and it would start moving and she would just scream, me holding the chameleon. And it's like, these are good. They eat mosquitoes. They're a good lizard. So she's on the phone and she's just hysterical. And she says, let's just call him Billy. Billy put notes on all of our doors in the vestibule that if we found his snake, that he should, that he was going to pay a $50 reward for us to find his snake and tell him where it is. I'm like, what?
Did he take it out for a walk? What happened to it? How did it get out?
I'm just like gathering. I don't know. I have no idea at this point what the hell's going on. And then the damn phone's like ringing off the hook. I mean, it's like other tenants are calling, and they're telling other tenants, and pretty soon the entire building. I mean, in the building across, the courtyard is like everybody's like, we're moving out. I mean, if you don't get this snake out of here, we are moving out. So apparently, Billy decided that his snake Sam just needed to get some exercise. So he let him out of the terrarium, and he's watching him, and he gets distracted. And
in the apartment still? In
the apartment, yes. And so, the snake somehow figured out how to flatten itself and get under the kitchen door. There was like a 2-inch gap. I mean, the snake's this big around, when we found him. But somehow he flattened his body out, and he got under the kitchen door when Billy was distracted. And he did the same thing to this. There was a stairwell, or there is a stairwell that goes up to the attic. So I don't know why the snake went up instead of down, but he apparently crawled up into the attic because that's where we found him 2 weeks later.
So it's similar to our back vestibule that has the stairs.
Yes, that was that thing, but it's a stairwell instead of a ladder. So
I gotcha. Okay.
The guy that built those apartments in the 40s did something called value engineering. He built the first one and spent the money to create a stairwell access to the attic, which is a hell of a lot better when you're trying to move a water heater up and down, or especially a bad water heater that's still got some water in it. And so when he built the second building 2 years ago, 2 years later, he decided, I'm going to save some cash. And I'm going to just build these ladders, and it's cumbersome. You probably heard me like cussing every time I try to go up there, and the trap door hits me on the head.
Goodness.
And but anyway, the ball python was fine, was healthy, and we had no rats or mice or anything for a couple weeks. The damn thing was still fat. So anyway,
it was up there for a couple weeks.
It was up there for a couple weeks. I think a snake can go like a long time without eating, and he would feed him little mice and stuff. It was pretty gross. So I when his lease came up for renewal 2 or 3 months later, I'm like, dude, I think you either need to lose the snake or you need to move on somewhere. And I lost a tenant or two. I had a couple people that just did not renew their leases because of
the snake.
Yeah,
wow,
so
that sucks.
That would definitely go into the top 10 for sure. So.
We're only halfway done, and this is already so eventful.
Well, there were some other ones that were not so fun or funny. I mean, there was one in particular that, there was karma on one, so I'm going to kind of go into that first. So I had a young lady that she would pay her rent, but she was just the biggest pain in the ass. I mean, she was creating disturbances. She'd play her stereo at midnight, and all the other tenants around her were complaining, and she's like, I'm paying my rent, so I can do whatever the hell I want to do. I'm like, no, there's a quiet enjoyment clause in your lease, and you can't disturb the other tenants, or else it's default under your lease. She goes, well, I pay my rent. I'm like, you don't understand. It's a non-monetary default in your lease. I can terminate your lease if you don't pay your rent, but I can terminate your lease if you do pay your rent. She goes, well, I get a lawyer. I'm going to play my stereo. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And so this goes on for 4 or 5 months, and, tenants are complaining about it, and I'm showing an apartment I don't own the property anymore. It's a 31-unit apartment complex. And so I'm showing an apartment to, nearby this person's, place, and the neighbor at the side tells my prospect, you don't want to live here because this lady right here, she plays her damn stereo all night long. You can't get any sleep here. She goes, I'm about to move out. So, which was not a real good marketing,
Definitely not.
And so, the lady's giving me a hard time. I call my attorney. He goes, she's right. It's going to be harder for us to go through the court system. It's really not designed to evict somebody on the basis of a non-monetary default. And so, thankfully, this woman didn't pay her power bill, and her power got shut off. And so I didn't know about any of that until I got a call from, she was not, anytime she did anything, I would hear about it because the tenants her neighbors hated her. And so I get a call from one of her detractors who says, hey, let's just say that her name is Susan. There's an extension cord that's it's like a couple 100 feet long. It's pieced together, and it goes from the laundromat, which is downstairs, around the pole. It's a trip hazard. It's on the stairwell. It goes up into Susan's apartment. I'm like, what? So I go over there, and sure enough, it's like Hansel and Gretel. I'm just following the extension cord. It's like I take a picture of it coming. She taken the extension cord and plugged it into one of the wall plugs in our coin-operated laundry and ran it to her apartment so she could still have a fan and have her refrigerator, and while she was like stiffing the power company for her power bill. So, So anyway, I called the attorney the next day, and he goes, "Oh yeah, this is theft. I mean, you can like get her for theft." So I like called her into the office, and I said, "Susan, let me tell you how this is going to go. You're stealing power." She says, "Well, I just had my power shut off. I just needed to keep my, you can kind of soft pedal it any way you want to, but it's theft. And I'm going to file charges against you. But let me tell you, I'll give you a softer landing. If you want to move out by this weekend, there'll be no bridges burned, no hard feelings. Just get the hell out of my apartment complex." And she agreed. So I did not press charges against her for theft, but she played right into my hands. And we had a little celebration when she left.
All the tenants,
yes, it was
a piece of party.
Yes, it was good.
Goodness.
So anyway, let me think about some others. Another one that was not so fun. So our production engineer, who's in the room today, also double then and now. At that time, I think we still owned that 31-unit apartment complex, which was there was always some kind of stupid stuff like that going on with that property. I don't know. I was so happy to sell that deal. I've got some others that I'm going to cry when I sell them. That was not one. So, but my point is, we had a lot bigger portfolio, so I had to have our production engineer, who is still helping me on the real estate side, but with 50 units, it's a lot less involved than it was when we had, say, 120 units. At this point in time, we probably had 100 units, 120 units. So it's like his first day here at the office. He shows up, and there's a squad car outside, and there's like a couple of police officers, and they're like interviewing me, and there's a tenant like pointing in my face saying, "Take him away in handcuffs, take him away in handcuffs." So that's the setting for this particular day. I get up like, every other day, and I come to the office, and it's 7:30 or so. I usually get to work before 8 and stay till I work 10, 12-hour days. And I love my wife. It's not because I'm trying to stay the hell out of her honey-do list. But anyway, so I see the police car, and I'm thinking, okay, this isn't good. Somebody's had their car broken into, or somebody's had their apartment broken into. And I see her standing there, and I'm concerned. I'd had issues with her. I'd had to put an eviction notice on her door. And I'd put it in the mailbox like a month earlier, and she hadn't. Her trick was, I don't ever open my mail. I don't ever get my mail. The postman came to me and said, "Hey, is there even a tenant in number 7?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, the mail hadn't been picked up in like months." So sure enough, I go over there, and like the 4 or 5 nice notices. We have somebody gets late. It's like a nice notice. Then they get later, and it's like not so nice, but it's still like, okay, we can work together if you'll communicate with us. And then it gets like, not nice. And then it's like, okay, you have 7 days to cure this or you get your ass out. Mm-hmm. So all those notices are still sitting like they go back 60 days. They're still sitting in her mailbox. Okay, I'm going to fix this shit right now. I'm going to put it on her door. So I took tape and put the notice right on her door. And basically, you have 7 days to cure this default. It's a standard form. And so I go over there seeing her like the next morning after we'd put the notice on the door, volunteering, I'm compassionate, I'm concerned, like, what happened? Are you okay with somebody, And instead of, she didn't even look at me, she's like, it was a male and a female police officer team. She's like pointing at me, that's him. I want him arrested. That's him. And she had filed a like menacing complaint against me for that I had threatened physical harassment. Now, I was not even the one that put the notice on her door. It was my property manager. I had signed the damn notice. Mm-hmm. So, but luckily, and it was in this office. This is when I was using this conference table as my office. So I had her file like sitting right in the middle of the desk, and it showed all these multiple like notices. Mm-hmm. And it was obviously showing that she was way behind on her rent. And so, did she think the cops weren't going to talk to you at all about anything? I don't know what she thought. I think, she sent us an email at one point saying, I'm late, but it's not my fault. I've like been in a wreck and I'm addicted to pain pills and I can't work. And it's like, I'm sorry. Goodness. This is like, 2 months into her like being like habitually late. It was not at that point in time, it was like, go home, move home to your parents. And they were like, hell no, we don't want her. Keep her over there. So anyway, I'm like, the police officers are pretty much skeptical about, the nature of her complaint. And I lean over to like the female police officer and I said, can I see you in the office? I got something to show you. And I was going to show her the files. Well, so this tenant like follows us like she's going to come into the office. And at this point, this female police officer, she pretty much had enough of this girl. So she turns around, she says, you stay right there. I'm coming back to you. You stay there. She goes, no, I want to see, he's going to lie. I want to know what he's going to tell you. I want to be there. She goes, look, I'm telling you, you stay there. And so we're in this office and I'm showing her the notices, multiple notices. And she's like, okay, I see what's going on. And my windows are open. Like behind this curtain, there's an exterior wall and there's a couple windows. And so this girl is like walking like a soldier, like, with a rifle over. She's like, and she's chanting the whole time. She's looking in the windows and she's chanting something. I mean, it's like she's speaking in tongue. She's like out of her freaking mind. And like, it is the most evil looking thing. It's like, again, I kind of kid you for being like young. You're like 22. Is that right? Uh-huh. Okay. So you wouldn't know you were not born when The Exorcist came out. But
I know. Is that what it reminds you of? Is that?
Yes. It's like she was possessed.
It was mental illness and drugs.
And so anyway, so the police officer said, don't worry about this. I'm going to go talk to her. So she goes outside and the girl goes into her apartment. So I'm thinking everything's cool. And there were obviously no charges but this was like at 8, by this point it's like 8 o'clock, 8:15. Other tenants are going to work and they're like seeing me having to talk and seeing this girl pointing at, it's him. That's him.
Yeah. Not a good look.
It's not a good look. So I'm, pretty much like completely disheveled at this point. I'm like, okay, what was I supposed to do today? And I sit down and about 11 o'clock, one of her neighbors, one of my other tenants says, hey, I don't know what's going on, but there's this wailing that's coming from this room, this apartment. So I'm like, well, I know one damn thing. I'm not going to go check on her. So I tell my property manager, can you go over there and like knock on her door and see what's going on? Well, he does. And he goes, Rick, I can hear the wailing too. And he goes, maybe I'm going to get accused of being a peeping Tom, but all her windows her blinds are up, and she's on the sofa in the living room, and she's like just laying there, like looking at the ceiling with her eyes open, and she's just like going into some kind of convulsions or something or other. And I think we need to call 911. I said, I'm going to call her mom. So I pull out the lease file, and there's an emergency contact, that we have to get when somebody rents from us. So I call her mom. And her mom's like, she's told me what you've done, and you don't have any right to talk to me. I'm like, what? I'm calling you because my property manager has reported that, and a neighbor has reported that your daughter is like in peril, in trouble. And I don't know what the nature of it is. I'm just telling you should probably come check on her. And she's like, well, let me tell you, she has told me that you've put cameras and microphones in her apartment, and I've hired a forensic specialist that's going to come in, and we're going to like do FBI wands to make sure there's no bugs in her apartment. And if there's a single camera or a single bug, and if you're a landlord and somebody accuses you of putting that's a big no-no. That's a big deal. And there's a lot of stuff like that gets a lot of publicity and traction, particularly like in Airbnbs. That's been a real problem. And so I hadn't stayed in business for 4 decades doing maggot stuff like that, but there are landlords that do that kind of shit. So anyway, it was like, okay, whatever. So I hung the phone up.
Sounds like her mom's just as crazy as she is.
Well, that's a pretty good observation, because by 4 o'clock, her mom is ringing the doorbell, and my property manager goes to the door to talk to her, and she goes, I need to see Rick. I need to see, the owner. And so my property manager sticks his head in that door right there, and he goes, hey, so-and-so's mom is here. She needs to see you. I'm like, okay, you stay in the room with me, because then we're going to document every damn thing that, is said. So she walks in, and she goes, I need you to let me into my daughter's apartment. Well, I don't do that. I don't give keys out to anybody. And so I said, I can't give you a key. And so then she thinks I'm being vindictive, and I'm not. I'm still concerned, obviously about some kind of peril that her daughter's been in. And I tried to tell her that at 10 o'clock in the morning, and she's not having it at that point in time. So anyway, I tell my property manager, you go and you unlock the door and you just stand in the hallway. You do not go into the apartment. You just stand there and make access available for her mom to go in there. And they end up, her mom calls the paramedics. They come get her, and she had overdosed on some kind of, she's okay. She's okay, but she was in some kind of peril by, I think it was pain pills. She'd been in an accident or something or other. But so anyway, this is this guy's first day on the job, and the guy that he's come to work for is like, okay, he's going to have to get, go off in this squad car with his hands cuffed behind him. And so that story is still not done. So 2 or 3 years later,
okay,
it's like, I get another like knock on this door, and my property manager is like, hey, this person is here to see you. And by now, this same person had like made 2 high-profile accusations against other men about like sexual harassment or menacing or something. Or other.
Just random people.
Just other people. One of them was a high-profile like politician, and the other one, was a IT specialist and very well liked and well known. And so, and I'd heard about those things, so I'm like, yeah, she ain't coming in this office. And we have a camera, obviously, at the front and back access of the apartment. So if you think about breaking in here and stealing my shit, you're going to have to smile because you're going to be on candid camera. But anyway, and we have security by Smith. And what's the other company? Wesson. So anyway.
Yeah, right. I get it.
So anyhow, she's like, I just want to talk to you. She's yelling like, I'm like in the hallway looking at her, standing at the front door, still in the realm of the camera. And she's like, I just want to apologize. And I'm like, okay, okay, I accept your apology. I'm good. Now just get the hell out. I didn't say that. But I'm like, just get the hell out of here, She's got like this backpack on, and like she looked like some kind of a street urchin or something. I'm not sure what the hell was going on. But anyway, I had
this
no
is the
interest.
tenant or the tenant's mom?
This is the tenant.
Okay.
She wanted to come apologize to me because, she had told her mom that I was filming and, we had cameras, and she told my property manager that he needed to be nice to her. This was back when the incident was happening, before she zonked out. Like, I'm going to own residence group. I'm going to get rid of Rick, because he's going to have to go to jail, and you're going to be working for me. She's completely delusional, obviously. So, but the mom never apologize. Anyway, that's a whole nother, deal. That she wasn't my tenant, but this tenant was coming to apologize. And so on that wall behind the camera, I've always real estate started out as a side gig. Music was going to be my main thing, and now music's like a side gig. But there's a picture of Tom Petty on there. I'm looking at it right now, and I guess Tom passed away maybe 2017 or 18, but there's a song that's coming to mind just now that's a Tom Petty song, and it's all the hell I want to. You want to apologize to me? Fine. Whatever it is you're looking for, don't come around here no more. And that was it. That was the last I've heard, and I'm good. I am good. So.
Wow. Well, I guess good riddance to that tenant. That's, man, you've been talking us into this whole real estate thing, Rick, but you're not making it seem very attractive with these stories.
Hey, for every bad tenant I've had at least, probably 500 great ones. I love my tenants. They're my neighbors. They're my friends. My wife gets aggravated at me because we all have problems. I have months where I have not a pot to piss in. And if you're in real estate, there are always times when you're illiquid. Where you might own real estate that's worth X millions of dollars, but you might have a month where you've had to replace a roof with cash and this with cash. It wasn't budgeted. And so you got a month where you got to tell your wife, you know what? We can't go to the beach this week. We're going to have to go next month after the 5th of the month when I collect some more rent. It's just the way that it is. And, but no, I love this business. I'm in this business for the long haul, obviously. And the reason is that I love my tenants. I think they're great. And I've had some tenants that have gone on to do some really amazing things. They make a lot more money. I got tenants now that make a lot more money than I make, and they're here because they want a maintenance provided apartment. They want to lock the door on the weekend and go off to the beach or the mountains or whatever and not think twice about having to mow grass or do maintenance or whatever. And it's a lifestyle that we offer that they enjoy, and they also enjoy this neighborhood with me, which is a big reason I'm still in business here also. So, right. But it's been great. So other issues. Okay. There's one that some of these are humorous, but That one was not. I mean, that one was that was probably the worst. I mean, I'm happily married. And so for this person to accuse me of having cameras, or accuse us, my staff, which would be me, it wouldn't necessarily be me, but it'd be my staff. I'm the president, owner of the company, so it should basically fall on my head if I ever did anything like that, or even if it was a maintenance man that was going off road, was rogue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that really messed with me for a while. I mean, it was
rumors can spread like crazy, so you don't want that going around.
She told my property manager she was going to go to the local TV station and they would love to have a story like that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they would have been all over that. So it was not fun. And I've written a song or two about it. So anyway.
You care to share which ones?
But I can maybe, I probably ought not do that in this one. So,
okay.
Anyway.
Number 4.
There is a song where the line is, karma comes without warning. Right. So anyway, maybe there's
that's kind of all encompassing.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, didn't we make an audiobook channel about that too?
I think we did.
Yeah,
Karma Club audiobooks.
Yeah. So I wrote a book it's not there yet, but it's called The Long Run, and it's about 40 years of real estate investing and the stories that are like this that came out of that. But it's really more relative to how you deal with those kind of situations. And you guys, if y'all are thinking about getting into this business, we need to have a whole podcast about creating some type of insulation against those types of, you got to have liability protection, liability insurance, and there's a whole bevy of things that I do that protect me from that. And, I've been sued before. I've never had any kind of issue that resulted in any kind of a judgment. I've had to defend and win, but, you have to make sure that you're protected for that. I mean, there could be legitimate claims. Yeah. I mean, if I had a fire that broke out and I had fire protection equipment that failed, I mean, even if I was checking it, it worked when I checked it, I mean, I could be liable. So you have to make sure that you don't work for 4 decades.
Right.
You're on the back end of your investment. You're ready for it to pay off. And you have some incident that happens, either manufactured by a tenant. There are tenants that watch the TV and every other advertisement is, if you've ever had a headache, call 333-335. I mean, it's like, call me, Alabama. We'll get you money because that bad landlord or that bad business owner or that bad whatever, and I'm caught between the insurance companies that have to charge me for that bull crap every year and justify their 20% annual increase in my premiums. And those mangy people that call themselves attorneys, that I do not like trial lawyers. So I make no bones about it. So we need to talk about that at some point in time.
Well, speaking of that, where's the best place for me to trip and fall on this property? Off camera.
Right outside that door, and I'll trip you too. Okay. If you're going to sue me for it, I'm going to make sure I get every bit of that, satisfaction out of that. So anyhow, I've been lucky. I mean, we take liability prevention very serious, and I try to go every day. I mean, it is my position as a landlord. I have people's safety and well-being. It's my responsibility to make sure I provide a safe and reasonably affordable environment for them to live in. And
I mean, you salt the sidewalks when we get a freeze.
Well, I mean, I don't do that. Honestly, I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not doing that because I'm trying not to get sued. I'm doing that because it needs to be done. I mean, if you got a rare ice storm and you got exterior stairwells that are not covered with a roof or an awning, people can slip and bust their ass. And, it's just something that you do. And I live near my properties. I can walk to work every day, and I see every day I'm looking for something. Okay, there's a tree limb that looks like it's dangling. They call those widowmakers, when you're in the forestry maintenance business. So it's like, okay, I need to get on get my chain. And I love doing that kind of stuff. I mean,
well, I see you out there all the time. I mean, you must. I'd hope so.
It's how I keep my little svelte figure.
Yeah. So well, no, you've got more muscle than I do, probably. So,
well, I don't. That comes from maybe other stuff besides working out in the yards, but. Anyhow, I don't work out like I used to. It hurts too much in the morning when I get up. I can still do the stuff I used to do when I was 50 and 40. I just pay the price for it the next morning. So other tenants that did stupid stuff that are notable include somebody that decided they were going to fry a hot dog.
Okay.
You ever fried a hot dog before? I'm talking about deep fry a hot dog.
Deep fry a hot dog?
Yeah.
No.
And don't just do one.
Is that common to do? You deep fry a hot dog?
I mean, this guy thought it was. So not just one hot dog. What you do is you get like a big pot of grease and you put it on your stove and you just put it on high and you let that grease just be bubbling out. It's so damn hot. Then you go into your freezer and you get like 8 hot dogs that are completely frozen, and you like cut them open and you drop them into the grease to fry you a hot dog. It's just great.
Yep. Covered in ice.
Can you imagine what happened? It was an explosion.
Was the individual injured?
No, I don't know how. But the grease went up into the ceiling. The ceiling caught on fire. It was a disaster.
It caught the ceiling on fire.
Yeah,
wow.
It was a disaster. So, and that was a big insurance claim. I had a perfect record. At that point, I'd been in business 20-something years. I'd never had an insurance claim. And this was a kitchen fire that spread into the attic. And we had to have some new roof trusses built, and it was an expensive claim, and it ruined my. But who in the hell raises a child? This person was like 19 or 20, just barely, probably first apartment. And is like, are you that stupid? I mean, these people really do walk around. But again, for every one of those, I have 500 that are great. But this next one was not so great. It's a little karma coming back to roost, though. And I'm going to end it. I don't know if this is 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, but this will be the last one because this is probably the funniest one. So, and this is when my production engineer, I think, was still working for me. It was actually during the pandemic. So, and the lockdown had actually kind of gone away, which the lockdown was maybe April, May of 2020. So this was like maybe June or July or August. It was in the summer. And it was the first time my wife and I decided to we'd been cooped up, sheltering at home and working from home. And, we would take turns here in the office. Somebody would come in by themselves and the other two would work from home, and we'd kind of rotate. And so my wife was just absolutely going stir crazy. So we went up to, it was an outdoor concert, so we felt like it was still reasonably safe. And they were like creating pods where you would set up 6 feet away from the next pod. And it was a Larkin Poe concert. And if you don't know who Larkin Poe are, it's 2 sisters. And one of them plays this amazing box slide guitar. And the other one, I think it's Rebecca, and I can't think of the guitar player's sister's name, but she's got a great voice. I mean, just soulful, bluesy rock. I mean, in-your-face rock, and just great band. And so we went up to see them, and I'm up there. And first of all, we stopped and got some food, and I got a tinge of food poisoning or something. I was just not feeling good. I was getting chills and everything. And then my phone, same crap. But this time it's a cell phone, not my answering machine.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what the fuck? Excuse me. Anyway, it's like, I hadn't gone anywhere. It's like the one time I go out and there's some kind of tenant problem. And so I'm like answering the text messages, and it's like a tenant across the hallway. Somebody's door's been kicked in. So I'm like, oh my. So can't get in touch with the person. And the person whose apartment the door had been kicked in, had actually told that person who was calling that they were going to the beach this weekend. So I'm like, this just doesn't smell good. So anyway, the apartment was pretty badly vandalized, and I don't think anything was taken, but there was like the walls were spray painted like a bunch of vulgar stuff. And, it's like, so I hired a tenant to go in there, and, there was sheetrock or there were plaster walls that had been kicked in and doors had been kicked in. So it was way above my pay grade. So
wow.
I called Builder Bob. I call him. So who's been
Builder Bob when I'm Bob the Builder.
But he had been an employee of mine and went on when a little something called 2008 hit, or 2008-9. I had to reduce staff. So at that point we had like 280 units, and I was doing fine on the apartments. I mean, we weren't like really cash flowing, but I wasn't hemorrhaging cash like I was in my home building business. Mm-hmm. And we had like 23 unsold homes and $60,000 to $100,000 of interest payments a month, and the banks were calling the loans, even though I could rent the houses. Couldn't sell them, but I could rent them and make the payments. And so I had to put Bob, just one of the worst times of my life. I had to lay a bunch of people off and to figure out who was going to stay and who was going to leave. And I closed my construction business. I kept my rental business going, but Bob was one of the ones that kind of got rifted. And I ended up saying, hey, dude, you go on the opposite. You just basically become a subcontractor, and, you can be captive to me if you want to. I'll give you enough work, obviously, that you'll basically make more money, at being self-employed as you were as an employee. And it's worked out great. He's still, to this day, 20 years later, almost 18 years later, he's still doing that. As a matter of fact, he's going to be doing some work next week on your building. So We're going to be doing some electrical upgrades and some other things. And but But anyway, so he goes over there, and I'd gone over like that night. We got home it was somewhere up in North Alabama. I got home like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm just feeling like hell. I'm driving back. I'm having chills because of the food poisoning. And, we had 2 or 3 people, another couple that went with us. And I'm like, I have the heater on, and they're like freaking out because it's summertime. They're like, you're like roasting us. And so they were like, when I would like look away, they were like turning the air conditioner on, full blast. And so anyway, we get home. I like struggle over there to go see what's going on. I end up like securing the door. Like I just basically nailed some cross braces in and went home and tried to get some sleep. And so I'm back in the office the next Monday. That was a Saturday night, I think. So anyway, I can't get in touch with the tenant. I mean, the tenant had told somebody that she was going to be at the beach for a while. So I'm sitting like at this same thing, and the builder walks by, and I have my back to this door, and he walks by and he throws something up on my desk. And he walks out that side door. He just keeps walking it, and I'm like, what the hell? I was on the phone or something other, and I look, and it's this big pink dildo. It's like, I'm not kidding. I'm like, what the hell? And he comes back in and he goes, you need to come see what's going on over there. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was over there last night. He's like, you were in the kitchen and you were not in the bedroom, were you? And I'm like, no. And he goes, you need to come see what's going on.
Why would he grab that? You don't know where that thing has been. Or maybe he does.
Well, so she had a little side, we talk about YouTube as a side hustle.
So she was a cam girl.
She had a little tricky business going on over there, or business doing tricks, apparently, and she had cameras set up, and she's probably going to be a better videographer than y'all are.
Well, call her up. Maybe she can help us work.
I have a theory, because she never came back. She never got her things. She just disappeared into the ether, and she'd paid her rent. I mean, so the next month, I didn't get a check, but and I'm trying to get in touch with her and all this kind of stuff. So, but we found like a stripper pole. We found camera equipment. We found whips and it's like, and that device that I mentioned to you was one of about 20. I mean, you could have like the color of the day, the flavor of the day, the size of the day. It's like, there were things I never even, and of course, Bob the builder, or Builder Bob, he's like having so much fun with it. He's like, every time he finds some new toy, he'd like try to, he'd like throw it at me or whatever. I'm like, my God, man, just put it in the dumpster. It's like, well, she may want to come back and get these things. I'm like, well, then you keep them. I mean, take them home to your wife, whatever.
So what do you suspect was the case
So
here?
this is just a theory. It's just a theory. But she left furniture. I mean, and we had to like,
was there anything particularly valuable, or was it just junk?
Well, I mean, it's clothes and like a life of possessions. So this was a very attractive lady. It was probably in her 30s, and so she had acquired some things. But yeah, my theory is that she did go to the beach that weekend. My theory is that she went with one of her Johns that might have been married, and somehow or another, maybe, just maybe, this is all theory, the dude's wife figured out what was going on and decided to pay a visit to the studio. I mean, her apartment studio. Because there was stuff like, SLUT, sprayed on the walls, and just derogatory stuff about, ho this and ho that. And so, anyway.
And so she never came back. Like, how did she know? I wonder, like, what had happened.
I don't know.
There's just no way to know.
I don't know. I mean, and it wasn't that there was damage, but it wasn't damage. I couldn't charge her for somebody breaking into her apartment. I mean, it was, it was something that she probably caused, or she was certainly a factor in that. So anyway, but that was kind of comical in some ways, but it was like, the hell, man, I can't even go to a concert and not have to deal with this business. So there are times when you need a break from the stupidity. Yeah. So, and that's it. I could probably go on and on and on. I did have somebody that died in an apartment, which was sad, but we didn't find out about it for like 3 weeks.
Ooh, so they were in the apartment for 3 weeks?
It was not an apartment I owned. We were like doing due diligence. We were considering buying it. And so I didn't. I had a team up there. This was in Athens, Georgia. I had a team up there, and so one of my team members comes running out of an apartment, running right by the rest. We were all gathered together, at one part on the site, and she comes running past us and throws a shoe. She's sprinting, running a 900, and throws a shoe, and she goes running to her car. She gets in her car, and she drives off, and doesn't say anything to any of us. And she had. The apartment that she had to, we were going to every other apartment and inspecting because we were thinking about buying it. So we were making a checklist of this apartment needs a water heater, this apartment's air conditioner's bad, this, that, and the other. And she stumbled upon a dead body that is natural causes, but it was sad because the guy obviously was a loner and had been in that apartment, for weeks before anybody figured it out. And she said it was like Beetlejuice. And you're not too old to have seen the movie.
I know Beetlejuice, but 3 weeks is a while for a dead body to be.
So what happened to that company? It didn't affect us. We didn't buy the deal. So everybody quit. I mean, everybody, the staff, had to deal with it because they had to move everybody out of that building. It was like a 12-unit building and hazmat because the amount of time that had gone by that the body was in there, the body had started to become aerial. So it was getting in so they had to put this. I mean, it was like a hazmat zone. They had encapsulate it with some kind of plastic, the whole building. I'm talking about sheets of plastic covering a 2-3-story building. And they had to create a whole bunch of processes. It took months for them to clear the building to get the whatever germs or whatever they were worried about. It's sad. That poor young lady, she quit. That's it for her. She quit the company.
Never saw her again.
No, we saw her, but she's I think I'm going to maybe go into work with another kind of line of work. So anyhow,
goodness.
So it's been a fun career. That was not so fun, but
you say only 2 or 3 times a year. Does anything serious that you have to respond to happen?
I had a call. Gosh, unfortunately, this was maybe just a month or so ago. It was a Friday night. It was about 1 a.m, and some crew was working they've been working this city. Our mayor's soft on crime. I'm just going to say it. I wish he'd stand up to the criminals and have more preventive patrolling going on. But we had, I rarely have incidents, but I have 4 or 5 cars that were broken into in the same night. And so Bill, who's my production guy, he sends out a memo the next Monday saying, hey, we just want to let y'all know that we got a problem. I don't sweep it under the rug. I mean, I'm out there, meeting the police officers, figuring out what's going on. And apparently Wind Lakes, which is a high-income gated community, had a whole bunch of, 20 or 30 vehicles. Our neighborhood, Cloverdale, relatively safe, secure, great neighborhood. There were pockets where there were 4 or 5 vehicles here and there. It was a crew, probably from out of town, that came in to work it. But that's the last one, and that was the first one that I'd probably had since that Larkin Poe concert. So, no, I take that back. Take that back. I'm down at the beach. We decided to cancel Christmas one year. We're down at the beach, and I don't mean it that way. Elizabeth and I were so we have a son who's married, and he now has a son, but this was before our grandson had come. So we decided they weren't going to come. They live in another state, so they weren't going to be able to get to Alabama for Christmas. So we're okay, rather than decorate an empty house, let's go down to the beach and celebrate between Christmas and New Year's down at the beach. We're down there where your friend Jill's water heater broke in her kitchen, and she was shower. The dude downstairs was able to take a shower in the kitchen, his kitchen. So those 3 things in the last, Larkin Poe, that was 2020. So
what do you do if you're totally out of town? Do you have to call somebody and just hopefully find someone who can pick up?
So I have a tenant that he's dealing with some health issues right now, but he's got a maintenance background. So I sent him a text, said, can you just get the water shut off and we'll go deal with it? So I had to come back the next morning. My wife was not happy about that. She's going to sell those damn apartments. I'll keep telling you. And I'm no, I'm not. So anyway, but it's few and far between. And, I live so close to the property, it's just not a huge deal. Mm-hmm. What I can't tolerate is getting a call in the middle of the night because of some stupidness. And so I've locked myself out of my apartment. Can you come let me in at 2 a.m? I'm where's your hide key? I don't have a hide key. Well, who's your backup tenant or friend, neighbor or friend that you guys swap keys in case this ever happens? Well, I haven't ever thought about that. I'm maybe you should, or you call the locksmith, because if I come, I'm going to charge you about 3 times what the locksmith's going to charge you. So you got to cut the stupidity out, but it's really not that big of a deal for me. Now, I take preventive maintenance very serious. If I think I got an issue, I fix it. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and hope to kick the can down the road and, maybe it won't be a problem until the next guy owns or buys these apartments from me and he'll have to deal with it. No, hell no. I take care of it. So, and I always treat my apartments as if okay, I want them to be where I would live. I've lived in my own apartments before when I was renovating a house or whatever. My sons lived in them. My mom basically lived and died in my apartments and in my arms, which was, I was happy to have her so close to me that I could like give her every bit of attention she needed in those last years. I mean, it was a long, slow process. So, but it's not, if you have a well-orchestrated operational plan and maintenance plan, you're going to have issues from time to time. If you don't allow stupidity, if you you're going to have idiots out that, think that they're entitled to call the landlord at 3 a.m. because somebody's parked in their parking space. It's like,
wow.
I don't renew their leases. I don't evict them. I don't renew their leases if they've been like problematic and high maintenance. I don't need any high maintenance tenants. So I get them out of my portfolio, once a year. You should expect if you got 50 units once a year. And, if back in the day when I had 5 or 6 maintenance guys, we would rotate voicemail. So we had pagers back then. Everybody's pager would go off and you deal with it. So, we had a 500-pound guy that plopped down on a commode in the middle of the night and squashed the wax seal and created a leak into the apartment downstairs. And he's 500 pounds and, you just can't fault him for that. So, those kind of things are going to happen. But so we dealt with that. It actually happened twice, both times on the weekend at night, and different people responding and bitching about it. So I said, okay, here, let's buy a comfort height commode and let's put a grab bar beside the commode so when this guy sits down, he can have something to break. What was happening was it was a little bitty commode. This is a big old guy, and he would sit down with such velocity that it was like this 500 pounds would become 700 when it hit that commode, and it would just squish down into the floor. So we raised the commode up. I bought like $1,000 commode, and but we never had a problem again. So, and the guy's like, "Why does this keep happening?" I'm like, maybe, dude, you just need to think about the physics of what's happening and figure it out for yourself. But you can't really say that. I mean, it's insensitive. So it's like, okay, we're so sorry for this inconvenience. We got it figured out. So, and we did. So, anyway, I love this business. I could talk on and on about it. And I guess my parting comment to somebody thinking about getting in this business would be, no matter what you do, I mean, we're talking about real estate investing, but it could be anything. If you don't get up in the morning and you're not excited to go into work, you're in the wrong line of work. You got to love what you do. And I love what I do, and I'm damn good at it. I've made a 40-year career out of it. And the boss that I used to work for that fired me from my corporate job that I hated, and we're going to talk about that at some point in time, did me a huge favor because he put me to a point where I decided I don't care if I'm going to be writing myself small paychecks. I was making a lot of money, in that corporate environment, in that dog-eat-dog, godless environment. And, I was completely dependent upon this guy and my boss, for the paycheck to support my lifestyle. And it was a rough year or two, but that guy thank you, Jim, did me a great favor by putting me in an environment where I write my own paycheck. For better or worse, I write my own damn paycheck. And if that means something to you, if I get laid off, it's because my wife laid me off. This is a great business for me. I would not. There's some deals that I would undo, particularly around 2005, 6, and 7, when I was buying every house I could buy and land I could develop and flipping houses and doing all the stupid stuff that damn near killed me when the recession hit. But other than that, this has been a great career. Great career. I would encourage anybody that is wired the way that I am to give this, or any career that gives you opportunity to write your own paycheck, be your own boss, love what you do. It's great.
All right. Well, thanks for having them. Thanks for joining us today, Rick, and thank you all for watching. See you next time.
Wait a minute. When are you going to buy? When are you going to make me an offer on these?
When I get approved for a loan.
No seller financing here. I'm going to cash out and go to the beach.
Well, I'm a subprime lender, so could you throw it back
oh my God,
to the 90s for me?
That's what got us in trouble. So see y'all.